Star Wars. I'm pretty sure everyone's heard of it. It's literally everywhere, with blockbuster movies, TV shows, novels, comic books, and even the large amounts of merchandise. But of course, there's video games for Star Wars. Star Wars is everywhere, just like how the Force is. And I absolutely love the franchise. I've watched and enjoyed most of the movies. I've seen the Disney Plus shows such as The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett. I'm currently watching The Clone Wars, and I haven't read any of the books fully, but I am currently reading bits and pieces of Darth Plagueis. But my experience with Star Wars video games vary. I've played the LEGO Star Wars series, except for the third one, which was about the Clone Wars game, and I played both of the Force Unleashed titles. And I'm currently playing the LEGO Star Wars Skywalker Saga, but I'm not reviewing it for this game. However, I've played today's subject, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, quite a few times. I'm reviewing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order for a few reasons. Mainly because it was one of the first reviews I've ever done for my school's online newspaper, and to celebrate the new Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus series. I remember being skeptical when this game was first announced because of the fact that EA was publishing the game, and we all know EA's history. However, the game was being developed by Respawn Entertainment, which are the creators behind Apex Legends and Titanfall. Two games that I have yet to play, but I do know of them. So I had faith that Respawn would do a good job with this game, and spoiler alert, I think they did great. So let's get into depth with a review of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. However, we have to start with a plot summary. Spoilers will be abundant, so skip to here if you don't want the story ruined for you. Jedi Fallen Order starts off on a planet called Bracca. Here we meet our protagonist Cal Kestis, a former Jedi who cut himself off from the Force following the events of Revenge of the Sith. Cal and his co-worker Prof are tasked with climbing a site to fix an issue. Once Cal climbs this very OSHA-friendly environment, they finish the job and discover a Jedi starfighter that causes Cal to reflect on his past. However, that reflection doesn't last long as both characters almost fall to their death. But thanks to Cal using his Force Slow ability on Prof, both of them manage to survive. Due to Cal using the Force, the Empire comes to the planet looking for him. They're being led by two of the Inquisitors. See, now the Kenobi celebration is appropriate. For those who don't know who the Inquisitors are, they're essentially a group of Force users that are on the hunt for Jedi under the command of Darth Vader himself. If you're expecting appearances from the likes of the Grand Inquisitor, you'll likely be disappointed as we only fight two of them through the course of the game, the Second Sister and the Ninth Sister. Cal reveals himself as the Jedi after Prof is killed by the Second Sister and is now forced to escape. With the help of a mysterious woman who was later revealed to be named Seer Junda, who was also a former Jedi, Seer takes Cal to a planet called Bogano to get into a vault that holds a holocron that shows a list of Force-sensitive children in the galaxy. Naturally, it turns out that the vault was locked by a Jedi Master named Eno Cordova, who was also Seer's master. Using this droid called BD-1, Cordova gives a lead to following the path of an ancient race called the Zepho. Okay, so at this point, the game kind of opens up. You can either go to Dathomir, the homeworld of the Night Sisters and where Darth Maul came from, or you can go to the Zepho homeworld like the game intended. For this review, I decided to go with the intended story, but the choice is there if you want it. Anyway, once Cal arrives to the Zepho planet, he sees that the Empire has already beat him there and is basically forcing Zepho citizens off the planet. Cal makes his way to the first temple and obtains his first hint towards how to get into the vault. Cordova tells Cal that he needs to locate a Wookiee named Tarful. So, Cal makes his way to Kashyyyk to locate Tarful, but ends up getting caught in a fight between the Empire and the Rebellion being led by Saw Gerrera. Yeah, the guy from Rogue One. Anyway, once Cal ends the revolution, he's told about another temple on Zepho. Obviously, Cal heads back to Zepho to locate the second temple. As Cal makes his way back to the temple, he has another encounter with the Second Sister. After the quick fight, it's revealed that the Second Sister is actually Seer's Padawan, Trilla. Trilla basically tells Cal that Seer is a liar and explains how she ended up being an Inquisitor. Seer was captured by the Empire and tortured into giving up the location of Trilla and some Padawans. As a result, Trilla holds resentment towards Seer, and to be honest, since the two never really interact on screen, this reveal ended up being pretty predictable. When Seer mentioned her Padawan, I knew where things were going, but I won't say that it was a bad plot point, just one that could have had a better reveal. After Cal finishes in the second temple, he finds that Tarful has been found and makes his way back to Kashyyyk. But first, Cal gets kidnapped by a bunch of bounty hunters in the most pointless part of the story. Yeah, this just kinda comes out of nowhere and just introduces a new set of enemies that you will likely encounter, bounty hunters. No, we're not encountering the likes of Boba Fett or Dengar, just some random bounty hunters that no one will miss. Upon arrival to Kashyyyk, Cal heads into the forest and is told to climb to the top of the origin tree to find out the next hint of how to unlock the vault. However, the Ninth Sister is around to give Cal some trouble, and in a rather easy boss fight, Cal takes her out. Afterward, Cal finds out that he must go to the Dathomir to get a device that allows him to open the vault called the Astrium. And finally, we head to Dathomir, where the planet is completely desolate and is only inhabited by some Night Brothers and the only survivor of the Night Sisters named Marin. Marin gives Cal a bit of trouble to get into the vault, but he manages to reach it and ends up having a memory of the Jedi Purge. Yeah, that's something I haven't gone over. Through the course of the story, we learn more about Cal and his master Jaro Tapal, but it's mainly some scenes of Cal learning the Force ability we're about to learn. However, the final memory is where we learn about how his master died. Cal and Tapal attempted to escape from the clones, but Tapal was killed and Cal escaped, to what I assume is Braca. Cal was also given Tapal's lightsaber, which makes me feel like a jerk when I decide to customize it. Cal feels guilty about his master's death, and due to an unwinnable battle against Tapal, Cal's lightsaber breaks and now we're forced to go to Ilum to get a new crystal to fix it. This part of the story is actually what makes me love this. I actually love the fact that we get a different perspective of the Jedi Purge. Before I played this game, the only perspective I had was of Revenge of the Sith, and most of the Jedi that die in that sequence didn't really impact me, but seeing Cal mourn his master made me feel something towards the Purge that I've never felt. We also take this time to learn more about the Jedi before the Purge and just how certain things worked for them, especially getting a Kyber crystal. As someone who's never really read the books, or at least is trying, it was nice to learn more about the lore of the franchise. Anyway, Cal has no problem getting the new crystal and ends up having to escape from the planet since the Empire is starting to take it over. After Cal leaves the planet, he heads back to Dathomir into the vault, but he ends up having a final battle against Malicos. Right, I couldn't really find a good way to bring him up. Malicos is basically a former Jedi who crash landed on Dathomir and ended up learning the magic of the Night Sisters. Over time, he grew insane and ended up going to the dark side. He offers Cal to join him, but if you know your Star Wars, Cal denies this invitation and ends up defeating him with the help of Marin. Oh yeah, Marin finally opens up to Cal and ends up joining him. Anyway, Cal manages to get the ash and he needs to head back to the vault, so he heads straight back to Bogano. Or not, if you decide to go after all the treasure chests in the game. Cal goes to unlock the vault, but ends up having one last illusion, but he manages to overpower it and obtains the holocron. However, Trilla comes out of literally nowhere, and after a short fight between the two, Trilla takes the holocron and retreats back to the fortress Inquisitorius, the fortress that created the Inquisitors, which apparently is on the moon of Mustafar. I wonder why Vader would want to be there, considering... Also, during this scuffle, Cal ends up taking Trilla's lightsaber, and we get a first-person memory of Trilla's past, at least when she becomes an Inquisitor, and how Seer managed to escape. Cal runs back to the Mantis and gives chase to Trilla. Cal and Seer... Oh yeah, Seer is deciding to help out on this one. Anyway, both characters make their way to Trilla to take back the holocron. After one last boss battle, Trilla is defeated and Cal takes back the holocron. But due to Trilla's failure, Darth Vader himself emerges and ends up killing Trilla. Due to Vader's sheer power, Cal is forced to run away in a sequence that to this day is one of my favorite scenes relating to Vader. I mean, seriously, I felt intimidated by Vader in this scene. I agreed with Cal when Vader warns him to run away. This scene really added the icing to the cake for me. I already loved this game, but seeing Vader just made me love it even more. Anyway, I keep getting off track. Vader gets close to killing Cal and taking the holocron, but with some last second help from Seer, yeah, she somehow managed to survive that. Vader is pushed back and the duo managed to escape with the holocron. Finally, in an ending that could make some people angry, Cal destroys the holocron and asks his crew where to next, ending Jedi Fallen Order's story. Well, that was a long summary, but overall, I think the story is great. It's a very character-driven story, and I know I didn't really dive into the significance of every scene. Every character is interesting in their own way, but Cal especially has a great arc. I love seeing Cal's development. He starts off as someone who doesn't trust anyone, but his story is about him learning to open up again, and especially after the Purge. His interactions with BD-1 really show this evolution, and I'm all for it. I can't wait to see how the story will continue in Fallen Order 2. Also, there's a bunch of encrypted scan logs and force echoes that Cal can find to learn more about the planets and people he encounters, but it's completely optional and doesn't add much to the overall story. Again, I will say that the story is great. A few predictable moments here and there, but still gives me that Star Wars feeling. If you took the gameplay out, this could be seen as a legitimate Star Wars movie, and I'm all for that. Speaking of gameplay, let's take a look at how the game plays.
Easy now.
Got a stowaway.
Hey, you don't...
Okay, let's get one thing out of the way. Yes, I will be mentioning how this game compares to Dark Souls, and this game is sort of begging for it. Constantly having to evade enemy attacks by rolling everywhere like a Sonic the Hedgehog character, meditation points acting like bonfires, and the fact that you will most likely die. However, that's kind of where the comparisons stop for me. I feel that this game sort of has some Metroid aspects. For one, I mentioned that you could theoretically go straight to Dathomir right from the beginning of the game. You'll most likely have a hard time, but you can do it. You're constantly exploring planets and getting upgrades to find more treasures and, of course, progress the game. Throughout the course of the story, Cal himself will acquire some upgrades, which mostly relate to the Force. At the start of the game, Cal only has his basic lightsaber attacks and his Force Slow ability, which apparently is a dark side ability, so... Anyway, as the game continues, he'll learn new Force abilities. First is the Wall Run, which allows him to run on certain walls for a little bit. Next is the Force Push ability, which pushes objects and enemies away. Then there's the Force Pull ability that allows Cal to pull enemies and objects closer to him. Cal also acquires a double jump and a breathalyzer that allows him to breathe underwater, but those two are purely for exploration. Cal's combat prowess also starts off pretty weak, but with the use of level ups, Cal can learn new skills such as throwing lightsabers and certain types of slashes like overhead or quick strikes. Cal can expand his lightsaber abilities to allow him to use a dual-sided lightsaber and even a lightsaber that disconnects and allows him to perform a stylish combo that does some decent damage. Cal can also use his Force abilities in combat to aid him in battle. But if you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll notice a blue meter. That's the Force meter, which basically limits how much you can use the Force in combat. Most abilities require some Force to use, and you'll have to refill it by attacking enemies, meaning that you can't just pull every enemy towards you and just insta-kill them. Not like you can do that anyway. Some Force abilities don't work on certain enemies. For example, you can't push a giant enemy down unless you have the Mega Push that you can only get through the skill tree. If you want to expand your Force meter, then you'll have to find Force Echoes or just spend the skill points in the tree. This also applies to your health. Speaking of health, let's talk about the elephant, or droid, in the room, BD-1. Besides serving as your map, BD-1 does a lot for Cal. For one, he can help Cal traverse zip lines, open doors that require slicing, or even hack other droids to aid you in combat. However, BD-1's biggest contribution is in the form of healing stems. With the push of a button, BD-1 will send out a healing stem to help you survive an encounter a little longer. You only start off with 2, but as you explore you can find up to 10. However, don't let this get to your head, as you have to be careful on when you press that button. If you press it right when an enemy attacks, it may get cancelled out and you'll have to likely end up seeing this screen a lot. Enemy encounters can include a lot of variation, such as the natural predators of the planet you're on, or Imperial troops such as stormtroopers or purge troopers. And these guys are on steroids depending on your difficulty. If you've seen the movies, you know how bad these guys are at killing Jedi, but in this game they will not hesitate and there's no way to escape from them. However, there is a sense of joy I feel whenever I get through a hard combat section and I'm able to continue. When entering a combat area, I always feel I need to analyze everything and take it into account. Do I have enough health for this? How can I use the Force to benefit me? Should I go for the bad guys with projectiles? Should I take out the beasts first? There's a lot to take into consideration in combat, but it still feels like I'm always learning from my mistakes when I'm playing the game. Generally, when I die, I have no one else but myself to blame, and I enjoy that. It's like T'Pol says, it's a matter of persistence, and I'm one persistent guy. Earlier I mentioned that you could explore worlds and find treasures, and those treasures are pretty underwhelming, at least to me. All of the treasures are just customization options for the Mantis, BD-1, Cal's outfit, and the poncho, and your lightsaber. It's all purely cosmetic, but I do find something fun about customizing the lightsaber. You can change your lightsaber to be whatever you want, and with a few colors. You first start off with blue, green, and orange, assuming you have the deluxe DLC that's free. However, after the sequence on Ilum, your choices expand to purple, magenta, indigo, cyan, and yellow. It's really cool being able to use different colors, but again, it's just cosmetic and it doesn't change anything, but it's not the end of the world to me. In terms of extra content after you finish the story, there isn't much. During Star Wars Day back in 2020, there was a free patch that added the Meditation Arena, which is basically a bunch of combat gauntlets that test your skills with a lightsaber, but I've yet to complete these because I don't see the point. You get some BD-1 skins for completing them, but I don't care enough to go out of my way for them. Along with this, there is the Battle Grid mode where you can create your own combat arena, and it's pretty obvious. It's not much, but a good way to train your combat skills if you need it. Unfortunately, all of this unlocks after you beat the game. And finally, the game also has a New Game Plus mode where you can keep all of your costumes and lightsaber lightsaber customization items, but you also gain access to a new outfit and lightsaber color, which is Cal's Inquisitor outfit with a red lightsaber. A cool addition, but not really worth an extra playthrough of the game. Graphically, I think the game is phenomenal to look at, environments are lush to look at, and character models are pretty spot on. However, I did notice some frame rate drops. For note, I was playing on the PS5 upgrade I got for having the PS4 version. I turned on performance mode and got a smooth 60 frames per second. However, I did notice some bugs. First, I had a bunch of times where the dialogue got out of sync, leading to some pretty weird cutscenes.
Business? We're all in this together, aren't we? Hey, Cal.
And I had to restart the game. I had this happen during the Ilum sequence when I'm not supposed to have my lightsaber. This happened after the final boss fight, and this area in the second Zepho temple didn't load properly. Yeah, a few glitches, but those didn't totally kill my experience. Most of them were funny visual glitches that got a good chuckle out of me, or were just a small thing that just required a good restart. In terms of soundtrack, I think it's okay. It's not composed by John Williams like in the movies, but you'd be forgiven if you thought that. Cal's theme is a nice listen, and the song Sugan Esena by The Who is great. Most of the soundtrack is atmospheric, but it does fit the mood when needed. Also, the game does use some of the movie soundtracks when needed, such as using Anakin's betrayal during the Order 66 flashback. The voice acting and motion capture is also very nice. I think everyone did a great job in their roles, but every time T'Pol yells at Cal, I can only hear Knuckles from Sonic the Hedgehog, and every time I look at Cal, I always think of Gotham, and I don't know if that's a show I want to be thinking about right now. Jedi Fallen Order is overall a great time, but I wouldn't say it's something I would go out of my way to play every chance I get. It's such a long game that I could only recommend one good playthrough and then maybe pick it up again at a later time. Yes, I was a little scared at the fact that EA was involved with this title, but my fear was wrong, and this ended up being one of my favorite Star Wars games that I've ever played, and I legitimately can't wait for the sequel to come out. If you haven't played Jedi Fallen Order, you can find it on the PC, Xbox One, and PS4, and you can upgrade it to the new generation of consoles if you're so inclined. And that's it. Again, I absolutely love this game and think it's worth the playthrough if you haven't already. However, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think of the game? What do you hope for Fallen Order 2? And I'd love to hear some feedback for this review because it's the first one I've done in such a long time. Anyway, for the next review, let's say Vengeance is coming. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed and check out all the other stuff on the channel if you haven't already. And have a fantastic night and take care.
Thank you.